The darkness is profound, not a literal absence of light, but an absence of knowing. It's the feeling of being utterly alone within yourself, adrift in a sea of sensations without a compass. Have you ever experienced that overwhelming sense of being, unmoored from any particular thought or action? It's this very sensation, this subjective experience of feeling to be, that we're going to explore today. And the unsettling realization is that it might all be happening within the intricate workings of your brain. The human brain, a universe contained within our skulls, is arguably the most complex structure in existence. Billions of neurons firing, trillions of connections forming and reforming every second. But what is this activity actually producing? How does something as physical as electrical signals translate into the rich tapestry of emotions, memories, and perceptions we call consciousness? Scientists are beginning to unravel these mysteries, piecing together a map of the brain that increasingly reveals the biological basis of our inner lives. We're learning about neural correlates of consciousness, or NCCs, specific patterns of brain activity consistently linked with particular conscious experiences. Think of it like this. If you're looking at a red apple, certain areas of your visual cortex light up. If you're feeling joy, other regions activate. These aren't just random coincidences. They represent a fundamental connection between our physical brains and our subjective awareness. Recent advances in brain imaging technology, like fMRI scans, are allowing us to pinpoint these correlations with unprecedented accuracy. But let's zoom in closer, specifically to the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making, or the amygdala, which governs fear responses. Damage to even a small region can dramatically alter how we experience the world, shifting our emotions, impairing our judgment, and fundamentally changing who we are. It's a stark reminder of just how delicately balanced consciousness is and how vulnerable it might be. And then there's qualia, that elusive what-it's-like quality of any experience. The redness of red, the taste of chocolate, the feeling of warmth on your skin. These aren't simply data points. They're intensely personal and uniquely our own. Now, this raises a profound question. If all these experiences, every sensation, every emotion, every thought, are ultimately generated by physical processes within our brains, where does meaning come from? Is there something more to existence than just the sum of our biological parts? It's a question that has captivated philosophers and theologians for centuries, and one that neuroscience is now offering a new perspective on. The challenge isn't simply understanding how we experience things. It's grappling with the implications of that understanding. Consider Descartes' famous idea: mind and body are separate substances. For centuries, this dualistic view held sway, but neuroscience increasingly suggests a much more integrated picture. The brain is not merely hosting consciousness, but constituting it. The notion of a separate soul, distinct from our physical selves, faces increasing scrutiny. This leads us to consider alternative viewpoints, like panpsychism, the idea that consciousness, in some rudimentary form, may be inherent in all matter. It's a radical concept, suggesting that even a rock might possess a tiny spark of awareness. While these ideas remain debated, they highlight the profound mysteries surrounding our own existence. Ultimately, neuroscience offers incredible insights into the mechanics of consciousness, revealing how our brains generate our subjective experience. However, it doesn't provide a definitive answer to the age-old question of why we're here, or what gives life meaning. Perhaps the pursuit of understanding isn't about finding a single, conclusive answer, but about embracing the complexity and appreciating the incredible wonder of being, both as individuals and as part of something far greater than ourselves. The echoes of that initial darkness linger, don't they? The unsettling realization that our most intimate experiences, joy, sorrow, love, might be entirely constructed by electrochemical signals within a physical brain. But let's move beyond simply understanding how this happens and explore what it actually means. It's easy to fall into the trap of reducing consciousness to mere mechanism, dismissing the profound sense of being that defines our lives. Yet, the fact that we can objectively study these processes doesn't diminish their significance. It illuminates them. Consider the story of Phineas Gage, a railroad worker, whose prefrontal cortex was severely damaged in an accident. Suddenly, he became impulsive, irresponsible, and lost his ability to control his emotions. It wasn't just a neurological impairment. It fundamentally altered his personality and sense of self. This case powerfully demonstrates that specific brain regions aren't simply processing information. They are shaping who we are. Damage to those areas doesn't just impair function. It reshapes identity. Now, let's examine the concept of narratives, the stories we tell ourselves about our lives. Neuroscience reveals that these narratives aren't constructed in some abstract, conscious space. Instead, they're woven together by networks within the brain, particularly those involved in memory and emotion. Our past experiences, shaped by both biological predispositions and environmental influences, are constantly reinterpreted and reframed to create a coherent sense of self. We're not simply reacting to events. We're actively constructing our own personal histories. This construction isn't always rational or deliberate. Often, it involves biases, assumptions, and emotional attachments that can distort our perception of reality. The stories we tell ourselves become deeply ingrained, shaping our beliefs, values, and behaviors, sometimes unconsciously. Recognizing this process is the first step toward greater self-awareness and freedom from limiting narratives. And yet, within these constructed narratives lies a profound truth: connection. Our sense of self isn't isolated. It's inextricably linked to others. Mirror neurons, fascinating cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing the same action, suggests that empathy is hardwired into our brains. We literally feel what others feel, forging bonds of understanding and compassion. The very act of sharing a story, of connecting with another through a shared experience, fundamentally alters our perception of reality. It's not just about conveying information. It's about creating a reciprocal relationship, a dance between minds. This inherent sociality suggests that meaning isn't solely generated within the individual, but emerges from our interactions with the world and with each other. So where does this leave us? If consciousness is indeed a product of complex biological processes, shaped by narratives and interwoven with connection, does it diminish its value? Perhaps not at all. Instead, it reveals a breathtakingly intricate system, a testament to the power of evolution to create something remarkable from seemingly simple components. Understanding the mechanics of how our brains function doesn't negate the mystery, it deepens it. Ultimately, searching for meaning isn't about uncovering a hidden soul or a preordained purpose. It's about actively creating a life filled with connection, compassion, and intentionality, a life shaped by our own choices and experiences. And maybe, just maybe, that's more profound than any ethereal concept. The idea of a purely constructed reality, a sophisticated simulation generated by our brains, isn't new. It's a concept explored in philosophy and science alike, often framed as a thought experiment rather than a serious proposition. Yet, exploring this possibility reveals something fundamental about the nature of consciousness itself. It's profoundly malleable, shaped not just by external stimuli, but also by internal processes. Consider the power of suggestion, how easily our perceptions can be altered through belief and expectation. Studies have shown that simply telling someone they've experienced a certain sensation, a phantom limb pain, or a visual illusion, can actually trigger those sensations in their brain. This demonstrates that reality isn't fixed. It's actively constructed by our minds, influenced by both external input and internal narratives. This malleability raises a critical question. If our perceptions are so easily shaped, how can we be certain of anything? Is there an objective truth out there? Or is all experience fundamentally subjective, filtered through the lens of our individual brains? The answer, perhaps, lies not in seeking absolute certainty, but in embracing the inherent uncertainty of existence. Historically, religious traditions have often offered solace in this ambiguity, providing frameworks for understanding suffering and finding meaning in a seemingly chaotic world. However, neuroscience challenges some traditional interpretations, suggesting that many experiences attributed to divine intervention might simply be products of complex neurological processes, heightened emotional states, altered perceptions, or even the placebo effect. It's important to note that this isn't necessarily a disproving argument. Rather, it's an expansion of our understanding, a recognition that religious experiences can be profoundly meaningful, even if their origins aren't solely rooted in supernatural causes. Perhaps faith is less about believing in something external and more about cultivating a particular state of mind, one characterized by hope, compassion, and connection. Conversely, consider the rise of artificial intelligence. As AI systems become increasingly sophisticated, capable of generating convincing text, images, and even music, the distinction between human creativity and machine output blurs. If our own minds are essentially complex algorithms, processing information and generating responses, does that diminish the value of human creativity? Or does it simply reveal a different kind of intelligence at work? The exploration of consciousness isn't about choosing between science and spirituality. It's about integrating both perspectives, Neuroscience provides invaluable insights into how we experience the world, while philosophy explores the broader implications, the meaning, purpose, and value of our existence. It is a continuous dialogue, a dance between reason and intuition. Ultimately, perhaps the most profound discovery isn't that consciousness is a product of the brain, but that it's an ongoing process, a constant negotiation between internal states and external realities. It's not something we find or discover. It's something we actively create, moment by moment, through our choices, our relationships, and our engagement with the world around us. And within that continuous creation lies the potential for profound beauty, connection, and meaning, regardless of whether a separate soul exists beyond the confines of our physical selves. The shadows lengthen, not just in the physical world, but within our own minds, the spaces where doubt and questioning reside. Part 3 explored how neuroscience illuminates the mechanisms of consciousness, yet simultaneously challenged traditional notions of inherent meaning. Now we turn towards a more active engagement with this understanding, how it might shape our choices and guide us toward a richer, more intentional existence. Consider the concept of narrative therapy, a therapeutic approach that recognizes the powerful influence of personal narratives on mental well-being. By helping individuals reframe their stories, identifying limiting beliefs and constructing more empowering ones, therapists can facilitate profound shifts in self-perception and behavior. This echoes the neurological insights we've discussed. Our brains are constantly rewriting their histories, shaping our present experiences. But this power isn't without its responsibility. The ability to shape our own narratives also carries the potential for manipulation, to reinforce biases, perpetuate harmful stereotypes, or create false realities. Recognizing this dynamic is crucial for cultivating critical thinking and resisting external influences that seek to control our perceptions. It demands a conscious effort to examine why we tell certain stories and who benefits from them. The persistent question remains: if consciousness is largely constructed, does that diminish the significance of individual agency? Do our choices truly matter if they are ultimately determined by neurological processes? The answer, perhaps surprisingly, lies in embracing both determinism and free will, recognizing that while our brains may operate according to certain constraints, we still possess a remarkable capacity for self-determination. Think of it like this: a river flows downhill, constrained by the terrain, but also carving its own path, creating new channels and shaping the landscape along the way. Similarly, our lives are shaped by both internal and external forces, yet we retain the freedom to choose how we respond, to navigate obstacles, embrace opportunities, and define our own course. This doesn't imply a simplistic free will, in the libertarian sense, a complete absence of causality. Instead, it suggests a more nuanced understanding that our choices are influenced by countless factors, yet they are still our choices, the product of our values, beliefs, and intentions. It's about exercising mindful agency, consciously shaping our narratives to align with our deepest aspirations. Furthermore, exploring these neurological insights can foster a deeper sense of empathy, recognizing that others' experiences are similarly shaped by their unique histories and internal landscapes. Understanding the biological basis of emotions allows us to approach disagreements with greater compassion and understanding, acknowledging that even seemingly irrational behaviors may be rooted in complex neurological processes. Ultimately, the journey into consciousness isn't about finding definitive answers, but about embracing a continuous process of exploration and self-discovery. It's about recognizing the intricate interplay between our brains, our minds, and our experiences, and using this understanding to cultivate a more meaningful, authentic, and compassionate life. It is an invitation not to escape reality, but to engage with it more fully, aware of its complexities, embracing its uncertainties, and actively shaping our own story. The persistent hum of inquiry resonates, a quiet insistence on exploring the boundaries of what we know, and more importantly, what we don't know. We've journeyed through layers of understanding, from the mechanics of consciousness to the implications for meaning and agency. Now, it's time to step back and consider the broader landscape, not as a destination, but as an ongoing invitation to wonder. The exploration of neuroscience hasn't provided a neat, packaged answer regarding the soul. Instead, it has revealed a profound interconnectedness, a realization that our individual consciousness is inextricably linked to the vast network of existence. It suggests that we are not isolated islands of awareness, but rather nodes within a larger, more complex system, a system that may be far beyond our current capacity to fully comprehend. Consider the concept of emergence, how complex patterns and behaviors can arise from relatively simple components. A flock of birds, for example, exhibits coordinated movement without any central command. Each bird simply follows a few basic rules, resulting in breathtakingly intricate displays. Similarly, consciousness may be an emergent property, arising spontaneously from the interaction of billions of neurons, without requiring a separate soul to initiate it. This doesn't diminish the subjective experience, the feeling of being conscious. Rather, it expands our understanding of what that experience entails. It suggests that consciousness isn't something out there waiting to be discovered. It's an intrinsic quality of reality, a fundamental aspect of existence itself. Like gravity, it simply is shaping and influencing everything around it. The persistent questioning, the inherent uncertainty, is not a sign of weakness or intellectual failure, but a hallmark of genuine curiosity. It's the engine that drives scientific progress, philosophical inquiry, and spiritual exploration. Embracing this ambiguity allows us to approach life with humility, recognizing the limits of our knowledge while remaining open to new possibilities. Perhaps the most valuable takeaway is not a definitive answer about the soul, but a shift in perspective, a recognition that meaning isn't something we find, it's something we create. It arises from our connections with others, our engagement with the world, and our willingness to embrace both joy and sorrow. Ultimately, this exploration invites us to step outside the confines of intellectual certainty and into a realm of wonder, a space where questions are valued more than answers, and curiosity is the guiding light. It's an invitation to live deliberately, not according to predetermined rules or imposed doctrines, but guided by our own values, intuitions, and experiences. And as we conclude this journey, let us remember that the search for meaning isn't a solitary pursuit. It's a shared human endeavor, one that connects us across cultures, generations, and belief systems. The question of does the human soul exist may never be fully answered, but the act of asking it, of seeking understanding, is profoundly meaningful in itself. This video has come to an end, but the discovery continues. Check out more content on the channel and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Thank you for watching.